Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Tisha Marie Cain. And she's here to share with us her two new books, Radical Freedom, Let Go of Who You Were and Set Your Creative Soul Free, and The Wisdom of the Trees, the I Am series. So what does it take to find your power when everything, including your freedom and your children, are on the line? Tisha Marie's extraordinary journey through trauma, justice, and radical transformation will leave you inspired to reclaim your voice and rise no matter the odds. Tisha Marie Cain is a breakthrough mindset coach, clinical hypnotherapist, and #1 best-selling international author and artist who helps people rewire their subconscious, release emotional weight, and transform their relationship with money, power, and self-worth. After surviving domestic abuse and overcoming false charges that nearly cost her 14 years of freedom, she now helps others reclaim theirs through deep mindset work, subconscious healing, and unapologetic self-liberation. So welcome to the show, Tisha Marie Cain.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your books. Why don't we dive into Radical Freedom? I'd love for you to describe, you've had a dramatic fall from a life of corporate success into a very deep personal and legal crisis. What was that first step that you took in reclaiming your power?
Wow, yes. So that led me to radical freedom. You know, they say when you can no longer walk, I was going through the depths of hell and I could no longer walk. I had to kneel and luckily my parents gave me a faith-based system. So when I no longer could do it on my own, I had to kneel and I just started praying and asking for guidance and asking for support. And from that moment of falling onto my knees, not having any direction to guide me and help me get through the depths of hell, I call it, I just prayed. And from there, my life got better.
Well, your story is just so empowering, and you've endured just unimaginable challenges and domestic abuse, family court battles, and oh my goodness, false criminal accusations. So, how did you find the strength to keep going?
Wow. Well, what I did know is I was committed to planet Earth. I had 4 children, so I had to stay. So I was committed to these little guys, and I knew that my mother was a fighter and I had to fight because they ran a smear campaign so thick. I I knew that I was innocent. I knew in my heart what my truth was. And I looked at those 4 children and said, this can't be our story. And I had to fight and claw my way back, and I did just that.
Just unimaginable what you went through and your journey through the justice system. My goodness, it's such a harrowing and empowering journey that you went through. What did law school teach you? Not just about the system, but about yourself?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think law school taught me to be impeccable with my word. And I think that also came from my parents' teaching as well, mean what you say and say what you mean. And law school just solidified that for me. So every word means something. And our language has been so skewed that law school taught me to go back to the books and reference back to what the early teachings were, because those are the correct meanings. So now, today, when I speak and communicate, I'm a master communicator. I just make sure that every word makes sense into the sentence and what I want to convey, and just meaning what I say and say what I mean. Be impeccable with my word.
That's such a powerful story. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about your journey. We talk about radical freedom. Can you share a little bit about your journey?
Yes, actually, Radical Freedom, it's a co-authored book. There's 102 other thought leaders in this book. And it's a co-authored book like a Bible. And I didn't realize that when I saw the title of the book, and I said I had to be in this book. And I didn't realize the writing for this chapter on how it was going to create a launching pad for my life. And it was who I became in sharing my story and my truth to the world that really led to radical freedom of who I was being instead of what I was doing.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And I know in your story, you speak of a spiritual awakening that revealed the life you were meant to live. And it's interesting. We're all kind of living in many ways, and you talk about this, a kind of a made up reality. Can you share with us what that means?
Sure. So I had my spiritual awakening right through law school, and it was a moment of clarity where the systems were dismantled, and I was shown that this was all an illusion. And so I really identified how I showed up in the world and what the world was meaning to me in a way that I related to it differently. And in my book, Radical Freedom, I speak about the remedy being within. And so I embraced my authenticity, my truth, to understand that the true fulfillment comes from living in alignment to my true self and my truth.
I'm sure during your journey, especially during that time, you're really having to redefine what your truth was.
Yes. And I was in corporate America and I was no longer working. I was a victim of domestic violence and I was going through the family court and my children were taken. So the titles of status, I was no longer a senior ops manager and I didn't feel like a mom because I didn't have my children. So I had no titles. So when they stripped everything back, I really had to understand who am I now without those titles because it was what I did and not who I was.
That must have been such a heartbreaking time. I'm so sorry you went through that.
Thank you.
In Radical Freedom, you share a strategy that you've developed that's rooted in forgiveness and what I love, responsibility. Can you share that with us?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, going back to radical freedom, the remedy is within. And so it's rooted in forgiveness. I made a list of everyone that I had ever harmed and I wrote them on a piece of paper and then I asked the good quality questions. Where am I lying to myself? And then when I asked that question, I added a few more to the list. And I just simply picked up the phone and took radical responsibility. And the conversation went something like this: Hey, I know you and I had some relations in the past, and for whatever reason, we're no longer talking. And I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart that I am truly sorry. And I'm wanting to know if we can create a channel where when you and I think of each other, the channels are clear. And Marianne, each of these calls were very, very emotional to me. And it was profound healing for them and for me by taking responsibility to forgive them in my heart and in my mind. And from there, my whole world energetically opened up.
Oh, wow. What an experience that is. I understand that you believe that our inner work is more powerful than any external fight we may be going through.
Yeah. Yeah, and just relating it back to self. I think the world gives us a mirror of who we are. My husband comes in, and if he says, "Hi, guys, I'm home from work," we're going to reflect back to him, "Hi, Dad." Right? But if he comes in and he says, "Hi, guys, I'm home from work," and the energy's in his voice and he's happy to see us, we're going to reflect back to him exactly what he reflected to us. And we're like, "Hi, Dad, thanks for being home." Right? And so that inner work of knowing that everyone is a mirror of who we are. And if we can show up authentically for ourselves to reflect what we want in the world is just going to mirror back that love and that energy and everything that you give out.
Wow, what a very powerful piece that is. And I think that would be hard for some people too. It's like, ooh, I've got some people that I have angst with, or maybe I'm not really communicating well with, or we have discord, and they're my mirror. Oof.
I know that's hard to digest, isn't it? Ooh, I know. But if you take a moment and just sink into that, how is this me? Ooh, it's a beautiful perception shift on how we can fix ourselves and them and the world.
Well, what a powerful realizations that you've had. And I love that you're helping people with their own realizations, finding out their own personal power in their lives. And despite everything that you've been through, I mean, you write with a tremendous amount of hope and purpose. So when we talk about radical freedom, what does that look like for you today?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Radical freedom to me is living authentically in my truth, showing up for for me first, and then showing up for my family and showing up to my community. And I just did a little talk yesterday and I said, "Guys, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to serve." And I show up radically free every day because I believe that knowledge is power. And the more that you know, and the more that you're able to see, I think God has given me eyes to see and ears to hear, and I can see where people are incongruent. And I just help them back into alignment. So by first coming correct on who I am and being a living, breathing example of what is possible, people can see what's possible for them too by just showing up in my presence.
Well, and I want to dovetail with that a little bit here. I know you've shared some, but for those folks that are feeling trapped, either by a judicial system or relationship or any system, actually, relationship or their past, what is the first thing they can do to not only reclaim their lives, but themselves?
I think the first thing they can do is just identify the one small action they can take that aligns them to their true values, whether it's reaching for support or journaling through their thoughts. I think a lot of times people think, "Oh, push the shadow side aside. Don't feel the anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame. I'm not good enough. Don't feel those feelings." In fact, if you let those feelings come up and you're feeling sad, what you'll realize is you've only cried for 3 minutes and you cleansed out your vessel. And then take radical action. What do I want my life to look like? And set the bar so low, like journal for 1 page. Set the bar so low where you can see little successful steps along the way. And then that will create momentum in your life to take radical movement and redefine the life that you're wanting.
I know you work with so many people. What tends to be the number one thing you see people get a little stuck with?
Today, the common denominator is fear. And I think the state of grace that we're in right now as a global collective consciousness, fear is coming up a lot. And this isn't new, right? In 1933 and 1965, all these pivotal moments in our society, it's always been there. But right now, fear is rearing its ugly head. And what I say to that is, I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. One hypnosis session, we can go back and neutralize fear in the body, and people can make profound shifts just on one appointment alone. So I see this fear come up, and I'm like, ooh, let's take a look at that and dive deep and ask the good quality questions to be able to release it from their body and their mind.
Oh my goodness. I've had hypnotherapy and I can't even begin to tell people how life changing that is. What a gift it is that you can do that too.
Wow, I'm so excited that you hypnotherapy is really where it's at, and just being open to that. I'm so excited you went through that on your own journey as well because this modality is profoundly useful.
It is a game changer, without a doubt. It is going from like night to day. It is a game changer.
It certainly is.
Well, and I'd like to pivot to your other book, The
Yes.
Wisdom of the Trees, the I Am series. What inspired you to write that book?
Wow. As mentioned, radical freedom was the launching pad for my life. And so there was one moment that stuck out to me that I had to decide if I continue to go in family court and continue to fight for the rights of my children or I stay out. And Marianne, I couldn't get to that answer on my own. And we have property in Minnesota. We have woods. We go there. It's just woods, 5 acres of woods. And I went and I sat in the middle of the forest and I did some forest bathing and I called on the wisdom of the trees to help me. And the funny thing here was I thought I was going to get the answer quickly. My ego was so in this, and the trees were going to teach me patience. And so I sat in the forest for 9 days. And finally, on the ninth day, the answer dropped in. And then I was able to move forward with my life. And so this book, The Wisdom of the Trees, is a tribute to that wisdom that they gave me on that particular day. And I get emotional about it because we can rely on these trees more than we think we can.
It's interesting how science is now proving what this deep connection that people can have with trees. And I think it's something that, many ancestors a long time ago, where they're like, of course, we can have these deep relationships with, just the world around us. And
Absolutely.
it kind of has me thinking a little bit. So your book really beautifully explores the connection between nature and inner healing. I mean, what a journey. What led you first to see trees as a powerful teacher? I know you went out into the woods, but what even sparked that idea?
My journey looking at these trees as teachers began with just a moment in the forest of solitude. I stood in harmony with these trees and I looked up and I looked deeply into them, into the rings, into the bark, into the branches. And this property in Minnesota was gifted from generations of family to family to family to family. So it's been in our family for a long, long time. And I could see the resilience and the patience and the beauty of being rooted there on the property. And then I looked within and I'm like, oh, I'm rooted in my own truth. And I went back and forth on how these trees were mirroring to me what I had within inside of me. And I just allowed it all to come flushing in.
What a great story. And to have that legacy with the land. How beautiful is that?
Yes, and we did. I had asked my husband if he had ever saged the property after, the turning over of the land, and he had said no. And so what we did is we did a little tribute to the trees, thank you and gratitude and forgiveness and all the things that needed to come up. And after we saged the land, my husband said, "Wow, you could tell that the energy here is very powerful." And he said, "I think I may see a fairy out there." And I said, "Oh my goodness." So maybe, these sentient beings came in now that they were cleared from whatever ancestral things that were there. It was just this beautiful energy that was shifted after we saged that land.
Oh my goodness. I love that story. That's just how powerful is that to do something so simple to make such a profound impact?
I didn't even realize that that was going to happen, but I just felt called to do something. And And so it was beautiful.
There's so many people that walk through forests and nature without even noticing the deeper messages. What do you think we're missing when we overlook the wisdom of the trees?
Oh, yeah. There's some silent conversations that the trees offer. And if we were sick, we had a bad cough about 2 years ago, and I finally just got the family out, and we went out in just around our neighborhood, and we were hugging trees, and our neighbors were like peeking through, kind of laughing, and we were waving, and we were like hugging these trees, really like heal us within, and help us here. And so they did. After that moment of hugging trees and being one with the trees, we came back and our coughs lessened. We got more energy and we didn't know. And I just told my family, hey, hug the tree and root in next to them and see their roots growing to the center of the earth and see their roots and then see the shoots all the way up to the heavens and be one with them and use their energy to help heal us. And Marianne, it healed us.
Oh my goodness, what a great story. And you hear about that in other cultures that that's a normal thing for them to go out and do forest bathing.
Yes, and I didn't know what I was doing until I did some research on the science. I'm like, could there possibly be something here? And then I was just kind of intuitively filling it out. I'm like, wow, we're doing what we need to be doing, not even having a clue what we're doing.
Oh my gosh. In your book, you share some really these moments of deep reflection and personal growth. And that's one of the many reasons I really love the wisdom of the trees. And I know we've talked about one, but was there another particular experience in nature that shifted everything for you?
Yeah, it's just being there and listening and embodying the spirituality, the intuition, the empowerment of their very essence and bringing that into my body and reflecting the importance of grounding into my roots, grounding into my ancestors. And there was a moment I sat there on this patchwork blanket, and I speak about it in my book Wisdom of the Trees, and it was like this download of all of my ancestors that came before me. And I was there to heal this. And what came in this moment of forest bathing was I am who my ancestors have been waiting for. And I was like, wow, that's a tall order. And okay, I accept.
Oh my goodness. Well, when we look back, I mean, I think about the whole what it takes for us to come into being where we are right now in this place and time in history. And of course, with this deep connection you have with the land, nothing is by mistake.
Correct. Correct. I didn't know what I was doing back there, but I believe that our reality is divinely orchestrated for us, and we can be in flow and be co-creations with it, or we can be in resistance. And so I had been resisting all of the things in my life and not really listening. That's when the trees kind of just shorted up for me and said, stop, take a moment, connect in, breathe. And I stopped and rested. And I remember I slept for, I think it was about 18 hours the next day, just stopping my body, listening to the profound wisdom. And it was from there that just life got better each day, each day.
I know for many, we live in such a fast paced world. Slowing down to connect with something as profound and still as a tree can seem like a pretty radical act. And you do quite radical. How can we begin to build that connection in our daily lives?
Yeah, and I think it's those small moments. I think I do the 5 a.m. program, and I get up at 5 a.m. and I do all the things. I do 10 minutes of journaling and 10 minutes of music and 10 minutes of prayer and 10 minutes of drawing. And it's these small daily practices that fill me up so I can fill my cup first. Because what I was noticing is I was giving from an empty cup, and then I was left exhausted and burnout. So when I start first by filling my cup in the morning, doing these daily practices, connecting in with nature, connecting into self, my cup was full. And then I started giving from my overflow.
I love that. That's what a powerful way to start your day.
It is. And when I don't do it, I'm off. I'm like a little I'm a little angst, and I'm like, "Oh, I need my daily practice back." So they're like the kids know, okay, mom needs to be doing her little thing. That's why I get up early so I can give time to myself. And then when the kids get up, then I'm full force and effect. Let's get the day going.
Well, I really love how your writing blends spirituality, intuition, and personal empowerment. How do the trees reflect some of these qualities back to us?
I love that. I think our strength lies in our ability to bend without breaking. And so if we emulate the trees and bend with the wind by nurturing our roots, our values, our connection into self, our connection into our family, our connection into our community, we can weather life's challenges with grace and more strength and resilience than we ever thought possible.
Well, then this goes really nice with my next question because, trees, they're all about resilience. They have this quiet power to endure and adapt. How can that resilience be mirrored in our own path?
Yeah, and just embodying that, adapt to your environment and continue to grow. I think the trees serve as that profound model. Their roots and their shoots, they continue. We have trees here in California that are thousands of years old. And if you could just go there and connect in, like, how did you make it? And ask the questions, how are you still standing after all of the snow and the wind and the rain and the sleet? How do you still look so beautiful? And ask them the questions and then shush and listen.
What a powerful practice to really kind of develop these strong connections with the trees.
It really is.
What would you like readers and our listeners to take away from the wisdom of the trees?
I hope that the readers and the listeners here today take away the deep understanding that nature is a powerful ally in our journey of self discovery and of healing. I mean, we're all needing healing these days. And if we emulate nature and be more one with nature, I think we can reconnect to our true selves and I think if we embrace this connection, we can cultivate a deeper sense of peace and purpose and fulfillment in our lives. And it's just a small, simple act. How can I be one with nature? And I'll give a radical act. When the sun is up, you're up. When the sun is asleep, you're sleeping. Go back to that and not live off these time clocks anymore. And you'll see how you're in tone and tenor and tempo with the land, how life gets to be exquisite.
Oh, I just love that. What a divine place to live life from.
Right. It takes radical action. And I'm kind of radical, so it works out.
Oh my goodness. Well, Tisha Marie, you're such an inspiration. Where can our listeners connect with you, be part of your community, and learn how they can work with you?
Yes, thank you so much. I am Tisha Marie Cain, Cain. It's kind of biblical on all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I have my own private practice here in California. I can do hypnosis via Zoom. Um, I can do it in my office here. And so reach out to me on all platforms, Tisha Marie Cain. I'm not here to sell you anything. And in fact, I'm here to serve and grow my impact. And my deep desire is to help people heal.
Well, Tisha Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you. I appreciate everything. I'm so blessed.
Well, thank you, Tisha Marie. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your books, Radical Freedom, Let Go of Who You Were and Set Your Creative Soul Free, and The Wisdom of the Trees, the I Am series. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.